No. At least, I don't think so. Not yet. But there's no denying that Tua Tagovailoa has been less of a well-oiled machine this year, and more like one that constantly malfunctions. Something clearly short-circuited on his second pick in Cleveland. On 3rd and 12, backed up against their own end zone, Tua gets the snap but immediately has Grant Delpit barreling down an open lane to take his head off. He doesn't like what he sees at first, but he also doesn't want to take the safety, so he decides just to fling this one up late as he's getting hit and give the Browns one of the easiest interceptions they'll get all year. Tua went 12 for 23 for 100 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 picks before being benched in the fourth quarter for rookie Quinn Ewers. His 24.1 passer rating was the second worst of Week 7, behind only Marcus Mariota. After the game, head coach Mike McDaniel confirmed that Tagovailoa would be the starter heading into next week, but he also didn't give the most glowing endorsement of the guy he and the organization hitched a $212 million wagon to through the 2028 season.
My expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks.
For what it's worth, and for what seems like the first time this year, Tua responded well to the criticism and actually held himself accountable. But really, how could he have responded in any other way? McDaniel didn't just pull that 10 interception number out of the back of his caprice. Tua is tied with Geno Smith for the most interceptions through 7 weeks with 10, more than he threw in his 11 starts last season. And it's not just the turnovers. Tagovailoa has career worst this year in passer rating, yards per completion, success rate, and sack rate. Disappointing season would be an understatement. And a once hopeful fan base has gone from tanking for Tua in 2021 to sarcastically tanking with Tua in 2025. But remember how I said I didn't think Tua was broken? See, I think focusing squarely on him is to pin too much blame on a specific singular gear when Miami's machine as a whole just isn't working. On a play-by-play basis, you still see Tua hang in the pocket and rip passes with tons of anticipation to push the ball downfield, like here against Carolina in Week 5. It's 3rd and 8, and Tua will target Jalen Waddle on an out route. Even with the blitz bearing down on him, he makes a great decision here and starts his throwing motion before Waddle has made his break. He gets it there early and picks up a first on 3rd and long. But when you zoom out and look at a whole game, it becomes obvious that the team is playing complementary football in an absolutely cursed way. This group ranks dead last in defensive EPA per play and has one of the worst offensive lines in the league, grading 31st and 30th in pass and run blocking respectively via PFF, with guards Jonas Savonea and Cole Strange being particularly bad. But rather than mitigate the weakest parts of their team, they continue to shoot themselves in the foot to highlight them, and Tua is at the center of it. Against the Colts, it was an interception on Miami's first drive of the season, which Indianapolis turned into 7 points and got up 10-0 at the start of the second. Then a fumble led to another score and a 17-0 deficit. In Week 2, with a chance to tie or take the lead near the final 2 minutes, Tua threw a pick and the Patriots took it back to add 3 more to their score. Still, the Dolphins got one more chance and got the ball down to New England's 26. But then back-to-back pre-snap penalties sent them back 10 yards, and the drive ended on back-to-back sacks and another loss. Against the Bills in Week 4, trailing by a touchdown just outside the red zone with 3 minutes left, Tagovailoa throws a bad interception where he just ignores the second level of the defense. And with the Panthers in Week 5, the Dolphins were actually the ones leading late after getting a touchdown with about 4.5 to go. But then Bryce Young and the Panthers put together an 83-yard drive to take the lead with less than 2 to play, and Miami couldn't counter again. Versus Los Angeles, Miami starts a drive in the middle of the third quarter down just 16-13, but another Tua interception gives the Chargers fantastic field position, and the Dolphins are suddenly down 2 scores in the final 4 minutes of the third. And finally, in Cleveland, the team made 2 critical mistakes, including a Tua pick 6 that let the game get away from them almost immediately. But before discussing the first mistake, let's go to this 3rd and 9 play with 14:22 left in the second quarter. Miami is down 0-3. Tua is targeting Malik Washington on an out route while the Browns defense crowds the line to show blitz. But they end up using sim pressure here, having 3 of the 7 potential pass rushers drop back into coverage. What makes this play so frustrating is that the line still lets pressure get to Tua immediately despite only sending 4, while the extra coverage Cleveland gets here is inconsequential to where the Dolphins want to go with it. He still gives Malik Washington a chance here with a rushed pass attempt, but it just barely misses. The Dolphins kick a field goal and tie the game. But here's what happens next. The Browns go right down the field to score a touchdown, making it 10-3. Then, on the ensuing kickoff, Dwayne Eskridge fumbles the return, giving Cleveland another drive starting on the Miami 46, which they punch in again. Tua and the offense last had the ball when the game was 3-3. By the time they touched it again, they were down 2 touchdowns. The running game, albeit somewhat propped up by softer coverages in garbage time, might be the better part of this offense. They hold the league's 11th best yards per rush attempt, but are 30th in attempts. Running just becomes less viable when you're constantly trailing. Nearly every game, they make mistakes to put pressure on their 32nd ranked defense and then force themselves into obvious passing situations with the worst O-line of Tua and McDaniel's tenure in Miami. Don't get me wrong, and I can't reiterate this enough, Tua has been bad this year. But I don't feel like something broke so much as we're just getting confirmation that he's a game manager, a guy who rises and falls with the talent of the roster around him. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, just ask Mac Jones. But the thing is, Jones is making $49 million less per year. Tua has gotten a lot of flack for some of his bizarre press conferences this year, like how he called out the team's leadership despite being one of the leaders, and I have a theory about where those comments came from. See, I think behind closed doors, somebody told Tua that, with the lesser offensive line and defense, and especially after the injury to Tyreek Hill in Week 4, it was going to be on him as the quarterback they trust to lift this team. And I think he got a little full of himself, like when your boss says they're counting on you and the pride gets you eyeing everybody's work ethic around you. It's just most of us question leadership in private Slack messages than in public interviews. Instead of being that tide to raise all ships, Tua has sunk everything. And I think we're especially feeling the demise of Tagovailoa in the moments he faces pressure. This season, he grades as the 30th best passer in these situations. And he's never been great under pressure, but this year he's been especially bad while seeing it on the highest rate of his dropbacks in his career. I've talked about setting hallways on this channel before as a quarterback, and basically it's just a way to talk about how a passer's hips align in the direction he's throwing. Tua's hallway setting has never been incredible, at least in what I've seen, but I think the added pressure and distrust of the O-line has left him throwing more off balance than ever before. Here's a good example off play action versus Buffalo. When he turns his back to see the field, he's already got a defender near him, but he also has Tyreek wide open on the right side of the field. He sees it and has time to throw, but rather than get his feet under him and pointed at where he's going, he's standing almost perpendicular to the sideline. He falls away from the pass and the ball hangs on him and ends up traveling too far out of bounds to be hauled in. It's why I think his bad throw percentage is the highest it's been since his rookie year, while his on-target rate has been the lowest. The other issue with Tua facing more pressure is that he's almost over-anticipating throws. Throwing early and on time is one of his greatest strengths, but there are moments where he'll almost auto-decide on where he's going based on a first or second read being taken away, versus actually knowing that where he's going is, in fact, open. Here's an example against Cleveland. Tua takes the snap and immediately looks right to the Jalen Waddle route. But the Browns are dropping into a cover 3 type look, and the second level defender takes the lane away. Tua gets his eyes off that side quickly, which is good, but he's already ripping it to the other side, seemingly without ever registering that the one deep safety actually took a step inward and did not drop back to open space for the seam. Because of this pass's depth, the safety has to travel very little distance to get in front of it. Tua has always gotten the ball out quick, and everybody knows that, including defenses, and now with the greater confidence from the defense that they can get pressure on him, safeties can hang around in the more intermediate parts of the field to sabotage these chunk plays that used to work so well for Miami. You may remember that Tua and Miami's best year came in 2023, but you know who else had their best year in 23? Tyreek Hill. That season, Hill led the league in receiving yards, touchdowns, and yards per touch. He was a legitimate MVP candidate at the wide receiver position. As a quarterback, you just have to do a lot less when your receiver can torch DBs that have 5-yard head starts on him. This one is truly a fuck it, Tyreek is down there somewhere type play, and the fact they work so often only opened up more space for everybody else. This year, Hill suffered a season-ending knee injury in Week 4 against the Jets. The situation really shines a light on just how thin the Dolphins receiver core is. Players like Malik Washington, Julian Hill, and Nick Westbrook-Akina suddenly have a lot more responsibility. And nowhere do we see the effect of this more than on Miami's third down stats pre and post Hill injury. In weeks 1 through 4, the Dolphins converted 51.1% of their third downs with an average distance of 6.9 yards to go. Hill was targeted a little over 31% on passing attempts in these situations. Now, in weeks 5 through 7, the Dolphins are converting only 29.7% of the time with an average distance of 8.4 yards to go. Malik Washington has suddenly become the main target for third downs, getting 32% of the targets now. And we can zoom out and take that Tyreek target share number across the past 3 seasons and see how it's correlating to success. In 2023, Hill was targeted 171 times on 562 passes, giving him a 30.5% target share. In 2024, Hill got 87 targets on 387 attempts, good for a 21.8% share, and prior to the injury, Hill was on track for around a 25% target share. Of course, going forward, he will get 0% of the targets, which might just make this thing impossible to fix. Both on the field or at the podium, Tua has been a problem this year. But I think saying he's broken or to imply that something has materially changed about his game would be dishonest. Rather, he's a one-trick pony that's still doing his trick, only it's not working anymore. With a worse roster around him, he needs to lift the group through his play and leadership, and instead he's done the opposite. And he can't just point fingers because his interceptions have been the backbreakers in a majority of their games so far. I think McDaniel can still design a great play, but the vibes are totally off and he hasn't made the right adjustments to re-unlock the quarterback he once loved. That's his job as a head coach, to keep the group united and put his players in better positions to succeed, and he hasn't done that. Tyreek Hill is entering his 30s and just had a major injury, the offensive line is young and bad, and the defense is one of the worst in the league. All the while, Miami is paying Tua like he's a top 10 guy, only for him to help this roster rot. Tua's gotta learn a new trick beyond just getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, and he needs to learn it fast. Otherwise, this disaster in Miami will become bigger than it already is. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it and consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. Thanks, bye.